Yanzhi. There's a Bayan in Danchang Province, Shandong Province, who works as a doctor. He has a daughter, Rouge, who grew up smart and intelligent, and Dr. Bayan loves her, and is determined to find her a son-in-law from a family of readers, but the big local family didn't want to marry his family because of his humble background. So Rouge has grown up but hasn't found a good wife yet. The Bayan family is across from the door, and is a family named Gong. His wife, Wang, is frivolous and joking. She usually goes to Rouge's boudoir to gossip, and is Rouge's friend. One day, Rouge dropped Wang off at the door and saw a young man walk by, dressed in a white hat, looking great and charming. Rouge was affectionate, a little moved, and the eyes of the two spirits looked straight at him. The young man bowed his head in embarrassment and strode past. The young man has gone far, and Rouge is looking far. Wang looked at Rouge's heart and joked, "A girl of your talents, if you match that teenager, you will be completely unfortunate for life." Rouge's cheeks are as red as peaches, heartfelt and quiet. Wang asked, "Do you know this young man?" Rouge replied, "No, this is Ishu Kai in the alley to the south, named Q Jun, the dead son of Xiaolian." Mr. Wang said, "I live in an alley with him, so I know him. No man in this world is more gentle and thoughtful than him. He is wearing white today because his wife has not yet died and is not wearing mourning clothes. Girl, if you're interested in him, I'll send him a letter asking him to hire a matchmaker." Rouge was silent, and Wang left with a smile. After a few days, I didn't hear back from him, and Ricky Rouge doubted that Wang didn't tell Ikyukin immediately, and doubted that he was the descendant of a gentleman and wouldn't go down with her. Feeling moodiness, hesitation, bitter thinking, gradually no food and drink, sick in bed, only feeling very tired, Mr. Wang came to see her and pressed her about the cause. Rouge replied, "I don't know, but after the day I was separated, I felt lost and unhappy. Now it's dying, for fear of dying. The man in my family has not come back yet from trading." Mr. Wang whispered, "We can't find anyone to tell Kestrel. Is that what you're doing with your illness?" Rouge blushed for a long time. Wang laughs, "If the body is sick for this, what can I do for you?" Would he disagree if he had asked him to meet you at night? Rouge sighs, "This is how it is. We can't keep our faces. As long as he doesn't think I'm from a poor family, get him a matchmaker and I'll be fine. It's a no-brainer for a private date." Wang nodded and laughed. When Wang was a child, he had an affair with Suji, a neighbor's schoolboy. Even after he got married, Suji came to find her husband's old friend whenever he could find out about him going out. On this night, Suji happened to come to Wang's home, and Wang told him about Rouge's obsession as a joke, and told Suji with a joke to tell Yisheng a message. Suk knew early on the beauty of Rouge, and when he heard about it, he was quietly happy that he had a chance. "I was going to ask Wang to help him, but I'm afraid Wang will be jealous." So, he said something that didn't concern him, but he asked the Rouge family in detail. The next night, Ms. Su crossed the wall into Ms. Rouge's courtyard, went straight to her house and percussed her finger on her window. Rouge asked inside, "Who is it?" Suk replied, Kestrel. Rouge said, "I miss you for the best of a century, not for the joy of the night. If you really love me, you should hire a matchmaker. If you want to have a private meeting, I can't say yes." Suk pretends to agree, but begs Rouge's delicate hand for good. Rouge couldn't resist refusing him too much, so he pushed his body to open the door. So Suke quickly sneaks in and holds Rouge for mercy. Rouge was powerless, fell to the floor and gasped for air. Suk hurried to get her. Rouge said, "Where's the villain boy? You must not be mystery, if it is mystery. He is a warm and tame man, knowing that I am sick for him. He should be very understanding of me. How can such cruelty be? If you do this again, I'll shout and your character will be over, which will not benefit either of us." Suk was afraid to ask for it again, pretending that Aku Falcon's horse feet were exposed, but asked her to set a date for the meeting. Rouge said to meet on the day of his wedding. So Suke thinks it's too far, and she's got another date. Rouge really hated his obsession and made a pact to wait until she got well. So Suke asked her for something to trust. Rouge won't let it. Suk grabbed Rouge's feet and took off her embroidered shoes. Rouge calls him back, saying, "My body has given you permission. And what else is so stingy that I fear that drawing tigers is not the opposite of dogs?" Leaving someone else with a sneering material. "Now that my hydrangeas are in your hands, I don't think you'll ever give them to me. If you break your word, I'll die." So Suke left Rouge's home and went to Wang's. When Suke lay down, he still had the shoe on his mind and groped his sleeves in secret. "Hurry up, light up, shake around clothes looking for," Mr. Wang asked him, and he refused. Suke suspects that Wang is hiding, and Wang deliberately smiles to make him suspect. Suke felt he could not hide anymore and told Wang the truth. After that, the two lit up the lights and searched the outside, only to go back to sleep in frustration after failing to find the embroidery shoes. There's a secret congratulation that no one is going to be here late at night, and they should be on their way, but it's still nowhere to be found when you get up early. Before that, there was a slacker named Mao Dan on the same street who had seduced Wang Shi and was refused. He knew that Suke and Wang were having an affair, so he tried to blackmail her by cheating on her. On that night, Mao pushed the door in front of Wang's door and sneaked in without closing it. Just outside the window, I stepped on something soft and silky. When I looked at it, I found an embroidered shoe wrapped in a sweat towel. Mr. Mao, who listened attentively through the window, overheard Mr. Suke's detailed account of events, and was overjoyed, sneaking out of Mr. Wang's home. After a few nights, Mao climbed the wall to Rouge's house. Because the portal is not familiar, I came to Mr. Bion's door by mistake. Mr. Bion saw a man through the window and looked closely at his whereabouts, knowing he had come for his daughter. Suddenly, his heart was full of anger. He grabbed a machete and ran out. When Mao looked, he was surprised and ran away. Just about to climb up the wall, Mr. Bion has caught up. So desperate, he turned around and grabbed the old man's knife. Then Bion's wife got up and shouted, and Mao couldn't escape, so he killed the old man and fled. By this time, Rouge's illness had improved slightly, and he was rushing to hear the sound of noise. The mother and daughter light up. The old man's head has been split, unable to speak, and soon he is out of breath. An embroidered shoe was selected at the foot of the wall, and the old woman looked at it, which was made of rouge. When pressed by her mother, Rouge told her mother in tears about the situation that night, but she could not bear to make Wang suffer, only that Yisheng came by herself. After dawn, he went to the county to file a complaint, and the county order arrested as Sheng. Mystery was discreet and uncommunicative, shy as a child at the age of 19. He was suddenly arrested and terrified. "I didn't know what to say in court, but I was shaking." So the county order convinced him that he was the killer and tortured him. Or Sheng can't bear the pain of the flesh, so he'll give up. When he was taken to the house, he was sentenced. He had no right to complain. Each time, Rouge tries to confront him, but when he meets, Rouge hurls insults, so he is hard to defend and is finally convicted of death. Since then, despite repeated interrogations by many officials, there have been no different confessions. Later, the case was reopened by Jinan government, and Taishu was Wu Nandai. When he met Sheng, he didn't feel like a murderer. "I'll send someone to grill him and tell him what he thinks. Wu Taishu will have a better understanding of Sheng's grievances." It took days of planning for the trial to begin. He asked Rouge, "Does anyone know when you're contracted?" The answer was, "No." "Was there anyone there when you met Sheng?" Rouge replied, "No." So Mr. Wu passed on a message of comfort to him. "I walked past her house and saw only my old neighbor Wang and a girl come out. So I walked away without saying a word," Yisheng said volunteered. Wu Taishu scares Rouge and says, "Why did you have a neighbor woman when you said no one else was present?" He said he was going to jail. Rouge was scared, saying, although Wang was present, she was not involved. Mr. Wu paused his interrogation, ordered Mr. Wang to be detained, held in isolation, kept her and Ms. Rouge from ventilating, and then started a trial immediately. Q Wang said, "Who is the murderer?" Mr. Wang replied, "I don't know. Rouge has confessed to the murder." "How can you hide it?" Wrongly accused. "The bitch wanted to find a man himself. I said I'd make her a matchmaker, but it was a joke. How do I know she's seducing her husband into the house?" Mr. Wu asked slowly before Mr. Wang uttered what he had been joking with Rouge. You said she didn't know, now why is she confessing to being a matchmaker? Rouge said through tears. I lost my father in a terrible way. It's hard to bear the thought of a lawsuit ending before it's over. Mr. Wu asked Mr. Wang, who did you tell after joking? Wang Shigong said, no, Mr. Wu bristled. When couples sleep in the same bed, they say nothing. How can they say nothing? My husband went out and didn't come back for a long time, Mr. Wang explained hastily. Taishu said, even so, anyone who teases people shows off their intelligence by making fun of the stupidity of others. Who can you fool by not telling anyone? Orders were made to clip her 10 fingers. Wang had to confess to me, Zheng told Su Ji. So Mr. Wu released mystery and arrested Mr. Su. I don't know, Suk was summoned to confess. Taishu said, it must not be a good man to steal a woman. Torture. Suk was forced to confess. I once lied to Rouge under the guise of Yisheng, but after losing my shoes, I didn't dare to go again. And I didn't know about the killing. The man who climbed over the wall and stole women. Nothing bad can come out of him, Mr. Tai bristled. The punishment was aggravated, and Suk couldn't stand it. So he killed himself. After the confession was reported, Wu Taishu was praised for seizing the case as God. So, Suk's only waiting for the head to be killed in the fall. However, Suk is a famous talented man in Shandong province. Despite his slutty nature and misdemeanor, he heard that Shi Yushan, a Shandong scholar, had the most virtuous talents and loved them, so he wrote a petition to complain about his grievances. His words were very sad. So Mr. Shi read Miss Su's confession, analyzed it over and over again, slapped the table and said, the book is wronged. Then I asked my boss to refer the case to him for a new trial. Shizushi asked Suk, where do you leave your shoes? I can't remember it. I just remember when I knocked on the door at Wang's house, I was still in my sleeves. He replied, how many more do you have outside of Suk? Wang said, it's gone. Shizushi drank. How can a promiscuous person only have an affair with one person? My relationship with Suk was very good when I was young, so I couldn't separate it, explains Wang. Not without seduction, but with them. Shizushi asked her to identify her. Only Mao Da from the same street and his repeated seduction were rejected by me, Mr. Wang said. Shizushi said, how did you suddenly become so pristine? Obviously not dishonest. As the drunken orders left and right served heavy sentences, Mr. Wang kowtowed in a hurry, all coughing up blood and vociferously arguing that it was gone. When Shizushi stopped using his sentence, he asked Wang, did your husband not come to your house for an excuse when he was away? And he said, yes, A and B, both of them have come to my house once or twice in the name of borrowing money or delivering things. It turned out that A and B, both famous second-class sons in the village, had played Wang's idea, but they didn't show it. Mr. Shi checked their names one by one and arrested them. When they were in custody, they were taken to the temple of Chenghuang, where they kneeled before the shrine and said, I dreamt of a fairy telling me that the murderer was among 4 or 5 of you. Now, you can't tell lies to the gods, and you can be lenient if you come clean. If you're lying, you're not going to forgive me. These guys are all saying they didn't kill anyone. Scholarship told him to lay his weapon on the ground and prepare for his execution. As soon as their hair was tied up and their clothes were undressed, they shouted their innocence in unison. Scholarship ordered a temporary exemption, saying to them, if you won't confess, let the spirits point out who the murderer is. They used felt mats to completely cover the windows of the hall, leaving no gaps, and then drove them into the darkness with their backs bare. They start giving them a bowl of water, washing their hands, and then tethering them to the wall with a rope. Warning, face the wall, don't move, it's the killers, there must be a god riding on his back. After a while, she called them out, checked them one by one, then pointed to Mao and said, that's the real killer. It turned out that Shizushi had the murder right on his back. So he clung his back to the wall and covered his back with his hands when he came out of the shadows, so his back was covered with black smoke. Scholarship was already suspicious of Mao, and this speech was even more true. He gave Mao a full and accurate account of his death sentence. Finally, Shizuming ruled that Suksukatake has a reputation for being as good as a toddler, following the same path that Pension Sunku's smarts lead to murder. Because he and Wang are innocents, he sleeps like husband and wife. And because Wang has leaked Rouge, he has the idea that Wang is not satisfied, and makes Rouge again. He learns that Zhangzi climbed over a wall and crossed over a garden, like a flying bird, and gently falls to the ground. He comes to the boudoir posing as Yisheng, and even cheats Rouge to open the door. He uses his hands and feet, and even doesn't need a little skin. And he flirts with flowers, hurts morals, and destroys the character of a reader. But I'm glad to hear the faint groans of Rouge, and I'm sorry to pity the poor, gaunt patient, who hasn't gone too far. There's a bit of a humanist flavor to the beautiful birds that come out of the nets. But taking off your embroidery shoes as a token is not a bad idea. Like a butterfly flying over a wall, a private room is heard through a window, like a lotus petal. And an embroidered shoe is invisible when it hits the ground. That's why we're here. We've wronged Ashen and Suk. He was tortured to death and almost broke his head. To climb over a wall and cross a hole is to taint the reputation of a reader. And to stand for someone else is to overcome the grievance in one's heart. So hold off the whipping to offset his earlier ordeal. Let's go down to the blue coat and leave a way to reinvent ourselves. People like Mao, cunning and slacker, are hoodlums in the neighborhood who seduce the women next door to be rejected and remain impulsive. Waiting for Suji to come into Wang's house. The ghosts will come out of nowhere. I pushed Wang's door open and joyfully followed Sasuk's footsteps into the courtyard. I wanted to catch the rape, but I heard the news about Rouge, and I was deluding the beautiful girl. Where the thought of the ghost is haunted by ghosts, I want to enter the Rouge boudoir's room, but I am mistaken into the door of Mr. Bayan, so that the fire will be extinguished, and the sea will become turbulent. While Mr. Bayan had no scruples at all, Mr. Mao had no choice but to take a knife instead. He tried to cheat Rouge by impersonating someone else, but he lost his shoes and escaped, but Suk suffered. How can a gentle country have such a devil in the wind? His head must be cut off immediately to please the people. Rouge, not yet dating. Now that you're an adult, with the beauty of Chang'e, you'll naturally be matched by a gorgeous Lang Zhen. He's one of the heavenly fairies of the dance band. Why worry about the golden house? However, she feels that serenity is paired and misses the good Lang Zhen. So much so that spring dreams haunt her, laments the passing of the year, loves Zhesheng for a moment, and wishes to become ill. It's just a thread of love that brings out the demons. For the sake of the beauty of the girl, Suk and Mao probably can't get Rouge. As if the bad birds were flying to impersonate Aku Falcon. The stilettos were removed, and the girl's name was almost preserved. She was beaten with sticks and almost killed. It's hard to think of, but it's a scourge to think of. It's a scourge to think of. And it's a scourge to think of the lovely man whose father died under a knife. It's a good thing I kept it clean, and I fought in prison to finally bring the case to light. She should be praised for refusing to let in the door, for being a clean and affectionate person, and for being a full-fledged admiration for Ersheng, which is also a genteel affair. I'll let your county orders be your matchmakers. This case has been around since the end of time. After Wu's interrogation, Rouge knew he had wronged Ersheng. When I met in court, I was so ashamed. I was in tears. I couldn't say it, like I was sorry. I was in love. Yisheng was moved by her love affair and also felt especially close to her admiration. But given her humble origins and her daily presence in the courtroom, she is too popular for the shame of marrying her. I can't decide if I want to. The verdict was announced. And then we settled. The county official offered him a bribe and sent a drum band to marry Rouge to Ijia.
Alright, this story has come to an end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Thank you.